Hey folks, it's Sudesh Girdhari, and I'm here today with Andy Mitchell. You're watching Cloud Stream, as part of Sysadmin Month, we're talking to folks who have kind of gone through and grown in their careers. Full disclosure, Andy and I, a long time ago, not like dinosaurs long, but enough time has passed. We worked together at a company called Check Free, and we were working on some fun projects back then. And I thought about him as I was streaming, because I was like, well, I need to talk to folks who have had to grow their careers, who have had to face the challenges, have needed to move up, right, and had to make those decisions between, am I going to be uber technical, or am I going to choose a leadership role? And Andy, it'd be great to kind of have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, and then we can get into some questions and thoughts. And as always, folks, feel free to ask questions in the comments, and we'll try to get to them depending on how much time we have. Andy, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Sudesh, and thanks for having me on. My name is Andy Mitchell. I'm Vice President of End User Services, and I've had a bit of a journey, and I think Sudesh asked me if I would jump on here and talk a little bit about some of the experiences across IT and maybe a few outside of IT that led me to where I am, and a little bit about maybe whether I think where I am is where I need to be, or if there are next steps there, and how we got here.
Nice. And I think something that I feel is like really important, because I got my start as a result of a little company called Scientific Atlanta. And, I was an intern in high school, and without that experience, I would never have ended up in technology and understanding that. I'm curious, Andy, how you got your start, what really kind of drove you into tech, and a little bit about kind of your early career path would be great.
Sure. I'll talk a little later if you ask me about the whole North Star concept. But when I started that, I didn't have a North Star. I didn't know what I was doing. And so I floated around in college for 14 years, and went through music school a little while. Got a bachelor's degree in psychology, then realized I didn't actually do anything with that. Jumped into computer science, got a graduate degree there. Realized in computer science what I was really digging was sort of how things work, and got into electrical engineering so that I knew how you could do Fourier transform for image transformation or what have you. And during that time, I took a job working for the MRI research lab at the University of Florida as a sysadmin, and discovered that while I was working on all these DSP projects to get my degree, I actually kind of liked, believe it or not, Solaris, right? And kind of got into the whole systems administration thing, networks and servers and routers, and it got to be a lot of fun. And the next thing you know, people are offering you a job, and it was fun. And I've only recently gotten back to looking at some of the things that I actually did in college and trained for after 25 years. So it started rolling from there. Once you're in that sysadmin world, you start really liking those pieces, and when opportunities present themselves, you build out your North Star, and you start looking at opportunities to help you take that next step.
That's interesting. I think whenever I'm asked about my favorite project, similarly, I was at the University of Georgia in the College of Agriculture and Environmental Science, a long way from technology, and they were pushing out this digital diagnostic imaging system for all of the agricultural farmers in the state of Georgia. And to this day, that was the most fun project I've ever done, because it's interdisciplinary. You had to go figure out how to capture imaging, you had to transpose the imaging, and then you had to analyze it and get time the information back, and it equals food in people's bellies, right? So it really was a great way to start. And I think the point I would say taking away from that is that if you're a college student, you're watching this, or if you're, early career, and you can find those projects that connect the dots between these types of things, they're great projects to start your career because they kind of expose you to a lot of different facets of tech and a lot of the evolving facets. If somebody back in, the early 90s said, Sudesh, what's your IoT project? I would have been like, hey, it's that, that digital diagnostic imaging system. That's my IoT project. So, from there, where did you go in your career? What kind of organizations and positions did you kind of go towards? And then I think you mentioned that North Star, which was, to me, was really interesting. I'd love to understand a little bit more about that as well.
Sure. So after the university position, I did things that I said I would never do, right? I went to work for a consulting company and actually had a pretty good time. I got some travel in. I learned a lot from a lot of smart people around me. And, it was probably one of the earliest lessons that I learned in my professional career, which was keep your options open, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, because you never know where that either the next opportunity or the next thing that prepares you for the next opportunity comes from, right? People drop little bugs in your ear about stuff and you get interested or you learn something that you weren't even talking to them about. And you've got to stay open to the options while maintaining sort of your focus. So I went to a consulting company out of Austin, Texas. And then from there, I moved to across a number of different industries, right? From hospitality and travel, finance, to now healthcare for the past close to 10 years, and a short stint in the arts. But it was always IT, and it was always how does IT provide value to the business, which was the common theme, right? It doesn't matter whether you're Delta Airlines or you're check-free, right? You still have business problems that need technical solutions, and your job in IT is understanding, at whatever level you are, is understanding how do you drive value out of the solutions that you propose, design, implement, execute, support, whatever.
Yeah, I think one of the common themes is that I hear this a lot, right? And it's interesting. It's the theme of how do you find people that are willing to sponsor you in organizations, or how do you find the right leader? And a couple shows ago, I think there was a really great conversation that I had. I think it was with a guest, Jeff, and he was mentioning that the right leader that can help you in your career growth is overall somebody that understands your potential and understands that you're able to perform in a way that's beneficial to the organization, and then can advocate for you, has the power to advocate for you. And I'm curious, in any of your positions, did you find somebody that was able to help you in that way, or were you ever in a position that you were able to help someone either way? And how did how did that work in your experience?
It's the only way it works in my experience, right? If you don't have a champion, right, somebody that believes in you and is willing to take your faults and sort of grow them into strengths or turn them into strengths, right? And somebody who recognizes your potential and then invests in that and grows it, you're not going to move very far, right? So your North Star is going to remain exactly where it always has been, way the hell up there, right? And you got to find a champion. And I feel strongly enough about that I've left companies where if after a year or two I couldn't find a champion, I recognize that it wasn't that I couldn't do a good job in this company or a great job in this company. It's that without a champion, somebody who's plowing the road and has the relationships at the level above or 2 levels above, sort of stumping for you, it is an extremely difficult situation to be in if you want to move your career forward. If you love building widgets and that's all you want to do, then you can keep building widgets forever. But if you want to go a step up, you really need that champion. And the career path that I I made a decision to follow about maybe mid-career, I guess, was to follow that management track rather than sort of that technology track. And it was for the sole purpose of being champion, right? Is for being someone that can help grow other people and realize their potential. And when you build servers, your trick is how do you build a better server? How do you build it faster, more consistently? How do you make it run faster? How do you coordinate it with other ones? When it's people management, your kick is watching people grow and succeed, where you've got somebody who's a desktop support tech, and over the course of 5 years, you turn them into a director who goes on to find another job someplace and kicks it out of the park. Like, that's the kick on the people management side. So
yeah.
Need a champion. We'll be a champion.
I think, we talked about, like, that's a really good key, I think, for folks that are watching out there, is identifying that champion. And I think one of the good things that I think is a takeaway there is understanding if that champion has the power to sponsor you and is willing, right? Like, I think you pointed that out, like, that I really liked. It's like, so you have to have someone who's believing in you, and it doesn't have to be the CEO of the organization, but it needs to be somebody who is a level or two above you. And I think that's a good nugget to take away. Now, one of the other things that we hear a lot from folks is, as they're navigating their careers, unexpected changes. So I think what would be interesting is, like, have you had to deal with unexpected changes? And started my career, I was at an early software startup. One day they came in and they said, "Hey, if you're sitting in a blue chair, you don't have a job any longer." And I'll tell you, that room only had one chair that wasn't blue in it. So it was those kinds of bumps in the road. And before you've got your, a family, a mortgage, and whatever it is, those financial commitments. And then, when you do have those things, your math is a lot different, right? Overall, I feel like this is something that we in IT and tech have to deal with on a regular basis. Someone makes a decision somewhere, and it impacts the direction and the business goals of the organization, et cetera. And you're constantly, thinking about that as you're going through and driving your career. You're kind of wondering, hey, is this storage platform that I'm learning all about going to help me in 2 years, or will it be obsolete? Those types of things. I wonder what your thoughts are there.
So maybe we go in reverse order then. I mean, talk about, is this storage platform going to help me? That's always got to be a balance of, is it going to help you, like, from a dollar perspective, like help you get another job? Or is it going to help you mentally and emotionally because you just dig this stuff and it's cool? Like, you're doing something fun. Like, you can't, I don't care how much money somebody wants to pay you. You really can't run that race for very long if you don't like what you do. So lesson one, pick what you like to do. And if you don't, seriously ask yourself if you're doing the right thing, right? And maybe you have to follow your North Star. Maybe you got to change your North Star. You find out you jumped in something and you find out it's not great. Unexpected changes, sure. Like, if, I think I probably know maybe 3 people in my entire life that have managed to run their entire career with one organization, right? I know at IBM, 25 years, right? I mean, those people are like, I don't know, something rare. Like, there are just not many of those people around anymore. So some of those changes come voluntarily, but very often they come involuntarily, right? So one of the early-ish experiences that I had was going to work for a startup. It was part of the North Star plan. What did I need to get one step closer to my North Star, right? You map out a path. You maybe map some options to say, it could go this way, it could go that way. How does that help me ultimately get over here? And that's okay. But you don't always plan for that unexpected bit. So I took a job at I left a very large hospitality organization to go to work for a small 200-person startup and run their IT group. And I went with a champion, right? Somebody that I trusted. And when I came in, everything was great. Sun was shining, birds were singing. We were about to acquire another company. It was going to triple our value. And within the first maybe 60 days of my being there, turned out that that company we were acquiring had a much hungrier CEO than we did. And within literally the last 2 weeks of the deal, it flip-flopped. They acquired us. We didn't acquire them. And they jettisoned virtually everyone except for some of the development. And they did keep the CEO, and he became chairman of their board or trustee or something, right? But I mean, everybody else, from the top down, gone. And that was really unexpected because I took the risk to go to the startup without a ton of savings, and that gig only lasted 6 months, and then the company was gone. So it does change the math, right? And I guess the lesson that you learn out of that is, and one of the lessons that you learn is just you have to make some plans for the rainy day because they'll show up, and there's not much else you can do about that. They are going to show up. The days of thinking you're going to go to work for somebody and stay there for 30 years till you retire, I think that's largely gone now. And it doesn't matter whether you're thinking you're just ambitious and you're going to change jobs every 2 years or not. It's going to happen. So
yeah, I think that is a definite part of it. And there's this other part too that I think we get a lot of questions around, and that's career balance. And so the hard part about career balance is that we're constantly in tech, probably moving really fast, right? I know sometimes if you're waiting for resources, it doesn't feel like that, but we're constantly kind of learning, and we're having to go out and deploy resources, et cetera. And sometimes that means overnights, right? Like you're doing a production deployment. Those still happen, in places all over the world every day. And then you're thinking, all right, well, I'm going to roll this out when it's lowest usage, right? So lowest impact to my end users. And that means that I get to do a weekend of work, right? And then there's that whole concept there. How many weekends add up to career advancement, and then how many weekends are across the line end up, decimating your personal life, right? Where you don't have the right balance overall. And I'm curious, as you were making decisions around, how much effort finding the right balance for you, right? Like what were some of the factors that you kind of think about? Because there's no use in getting to the North Star if by the time you get there, you've lost the ability to walk and talk, right? Like that's not a good situation for anyone. So I'm curious about your experiences there.
So I mean, some of the factors change over time, but the simplest one, and I don't know exactly what constitutes a population here for your audience, but paycheck. Right. So a lot of people like to talk about this stuff like it's all this academic discussion about you make the choices about your next gig and what you're going to do. And, if you don't like it, just stop. Right? Completely ignoring the reality that, you have to eat. You have to pay a rent or a mortgage, or, you've got a family to support. So sometimes it comes down to, I'll work whatever hours you want me to work, and personal life be damned because I need the paycheck. It doesn't mean I'm going to be working for something else or looking for something else. But so that's one of the factors. I think the other factor is where you are in your life, right? I mean, if you mentioned it earlier, so that's like if you're single and you just got yourself in a small apartment.
Yep.
I mean, that's a great time to dig in and work on that career advancement by, running faster than the other guy. Let the bear catch them. Like if you can burn 20 hours a day, like that's going to get you noticed, and you're going to get stuff done. If 10 years later, you're married, right? And you've got a significant other, and maybe you're looking at a house, like some of that stuff changes a little bit, right? You owe some time to yourself and to your family. So you got to balance that out a little bit. I don't think there's a silver bullet for any of this stuff. I think it's constant it's a constant evaluation that you have to do based on where you are in your life, what is acceptable to you, and where you want to go and what you think that investment is. I don't think there's any canned answer. I know single individuals who will not put in more than 40 hours a week, and I know people that are CIOs that have 3 kids and a family and a wife, and they work crazy hours, and that works for them. But it's got to be a personal evaluation on how you want to invest your time and whether you need to invest it, at home or invest it at work. No secret answer. Sorry.
Yeah. I think your response is great because it depends on what your personal and professional goals are, and are they aligned? I think the biggest problem comes when you have misalignment, right? You're maybe not honest with yourself about what you need to do for your personal life, or maybe you're too celebratory in professional life, and getting those things squared away is really important. The next thing that I was thinking about, and I get this question a lot as well, is, hey, I want to be a principal architect, right? I do not want to be a people manager. I do not want to follow that track at all. And I get it, right? It's like when you find that project and you're so passionate about the project that just time melts away, that you just you can work for 3 days and you come out and you're like, man, that was awesome. Look at what I made. I'm super excited about it, right? And I think, finding the balance there is really interesting. What are your thoughts there? What's the the decision that you made? How did you kind of negotiate that so that you kind of got what you wanted in terms of your career growth?
All right, you're assuming I got what I wanted. I'm still making that decision as we go here, but I mean, look, if I'm being honest, as a sysadmin engineer, I was probably a B+ guy, right? Like, I was surrounded by people that were better and worse than I was at the technical side of it, but I didn't want to be a B or B+ guy. I wanted to be an A+ guy, and I looked around at sort of what my options were, and then I could keep going on the technical track, right? I mean, we all know there's plenty of C guys that are, like rated a grade of C or D sometimes, that get to pretty high technical levels, and you ask yourself, why is this person making the decision about our network architecture or whatever, right? And you ask yourself, I can do better than that. But what I discovered during that little period of introspection, right, about what do I want to be if I really think honestly that I'm a B+ engineer admin, and I started recognizing I did a pretty good job with people, and I recognized that as I got people to sort of mentor, even informally, like, I was pretty jazzed when some piece of advice that I gave them helped them get something, right? Whether it was that next project or that next job or a connection with somebody, that was pretty exciting to me. So when I had the opportunity to move into a manager position, I thought, well, I'll try this out, right? I'm not going to forget everything I know on the technical side in 6 months, so let's try it out. And it seemed to fit pretty well. Okay. So I mean, I think both tracks have got merit, and these days a lot of organizations, particularly tech organizations, recognize that there used to be a trade-off, right? I mean, your technical track goes about this high in terms of comp, and this one just goes up forever, right? I mean, you can get to be CEO and make just stupid money. But, if you're just after money, maybe you should have just been a brain surgeon. Like, those guys make tons of money too. But if you don't like brain surgery, wrong choice. So don't pick a track based on money, either the limit of it or the unlimited of it, right? Pick it because it's what you want to do, what you think you're good at, which are usually pretty closely related. But I think I'm really happy to see that a lot of tech organizations in particular are willing to compensate and reward and recognize principal architects or people that want to move up on the technical track without sacrificing, a comfortable living or even an exemplary living, right?
Yeah.
So that's great. For me, I recognized I was probably as good or better on the people front as I was on the technical front, and made a conscious decision to move down that people manager path. And right or wrong, I always figured I could do some technical stuff on the side. So like probably some of you out there, like I did some of this stuff like, hey, let's set up a network in our house, like a real network, not like, I'm going to put this in with a mesh router, like I'm a real network. And so I got a bunch of gear down in the basement, and, servers and switches and router. And what you come to realize is, I don't know that I want to do this as my nighttime job, because the stuff starts breaking, right? Everybody knows. But then you build all of this infrastructure in your house, and you're like, man, this is not what I want to do when I come home at night. As much as you like it, it's not. It's too much, and too much obligation. So you got to pick what you like, and now we have the cloud, so I can have all of those things. Like I can build networks and servers in my spare time by clicking buttons and not have to worry about patching.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah. On our previous show, we talked about home labs, and everyone's got one, and everyone's trying to get rid of the hardware for them. But there's this whole population of us that's just like, well, servers on eBay are only $100, or I could go sign up for my cloud account, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's a really good point. And I did want to switch gears. Believe it or not, we're close to our 30 minutes already, and talk a little bit about passion projects, side gigs, side hustles, all of that, because I think anybody who's on a career trajectory, one way to explore what you can do is always to try something on your own and experiment constantly. For a while I ran an RV rental company, believe it or not, and it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I found out that I'm terrible at RV maintenance, right? Like just not the person to do that, right? But great at everything else that was part of that. It was really fun. And, like anything else, when you're experimenting, you can turn it up and you can turn it off and turn it down. And I know that there's a project that you're working on, and we were chatting about that a little bit. I'd love to hear how you got there, what you spotted, and how you're kind of playing with your interests as well.
Sure. So I'll try to be brief about this, given the time constraint. But I am also a musician, and I am a songwriter, and a lot of it, I've got a full-blown studio here at the house. And, probably like a lot of people who write music, you get stuck on pieces. And talking with one of my teachers, I recognized an opportunity for basically theme music, production, stock music, right? Music that goes behind, something like this, like Sudesh might, if you don't use music to introduce the show. YouTubers will do this a lot, right? And independent filmmakers, presenters for corporate presentations. And one of the things that those people don't want to do is get sued, right? So they can't use copyrighted music. And so they're looking for stock music. And there are a number of places to get stock music today. So I had this bunch of music, and I have a bunch of friends and acquaintances who had this music that they couldn't quite finish, but it was cool, it was catchy, it was, hey, that would be good to go behind a movie. And I thought, well, what could I do with that? And I saw this other niche for the stock music thing, and then I went and looked at the people who provided stock music, and I thought, well, you guys are missing a few tricks here, right? It's great that you want to advertise you've got 2 million tracks. And so I went and I talked to audio editors and video editors and said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And they said, it's the worst thing in the world, because my client wants to hear every one of them before making a decision. And that decision is one of the first 5 we listened to 7 hours ago. It's the worst use of my time ever. I thought, well, gosh, Pandora, Spotify, those guys do a pretty good job of finding music that you like, even when you don't know what it is you like. Right? People say thumbs up. Stevie Wonder tune, thumbs up, right? And they go find 300 attributes associated with that song and match it up via a giant AI engine, right? And it's got to be some sort of neural network, right? Adaptive recurrent neural network, right? That does a nonlinear combination of those pieces to say, wow, you can like Stevie Wonder, but not like Marvin Gaye's music. How is that possible? Right? Aren't those guys the same? And they're like, you're not. No, there are 400 attributes for these songs, right? And it's not all a switch on and off. So I thought, well, people are missing the AI bit for going to find stock music. Hey, I got this piece, I can't use it because I'll get sued. Give me something, give me 50 pieces of music in song space that are close to this. Okay. Well, I kind of got into, there are a few other aspects as well, but so I kind of got into it from that side and said, well, what could I do around that? And then I got to take my little home network stuff, which is now in the cloud, and say, let's build a couple servers, see what we can do with the little AI engine, and start building out a catalog. So that's what we got there, and we're just getting ready to take off with that now.
Nice. And so I'm always a fan of upcoming tech. So what's going to be the brand for this service? And I think the closest thing that I can think of is like I use that site for stock art that is Unsplash, and this is like Unsplash for music, right? That kind of, is that similar? Is that a good analogy?
It's exactly what it is. It's royalty-free content, royalty-free media. You can pay for it once and use it in perpetuity, and steal it, but you are welcome to use it for, quite a few different uses. And you're not going to use it, right? That's part of the licensing rights is for $20 you can use this thing in your YouTube video, and if your YouTube video goes viral and you get 7 million hits and 4 million subscribers, it was still only $20 for the music. So
right, yeah. So what's the name of the site that you're going to launch?
It's Hopping Mad Monkey, and it's hoppingmadmonkey.com. Yeah. So there's a long story behind the name. It's not mad as an upset, but we're just, like I said, we're just getting launched. We're just having artists start to contribute. But it's kind of exciting, and it feeds the other side, right? The management side is satisfied with my current career path, and then the tech side is now satisfied with this side hobby. Although I will warn you, I'm up at 5 a.m. every morning working on it. Budget or legal stuff for 2 hours before I start my day job. And then on the weekends I'm doing it too, but that's the passion play.
That's super cool. I love that. And I think anybody that's watching should always be aware of where their passions lie and how to continue to incubate them as part of career growth. I think that's the takeaway there. And we only got, we're over a little bit, but I did want to mention a couple of things. I always like to tell viewers, I'm a listener to Software Engineering Daily, which is a podcast that covers tech topics and growth, right? And as you're thinking about career growth, they just released a book called Move Fast, How Facebook Built Software. And what's really great about this, it's about a 3-hour listen. It's a quick listen, but it really focuses on the attributes of career growth for engineers. And so I really like that. And as you're considering your next step or where you're going, it kind of walks through the various challenges that Facebook faced. And once again, it's called Move Fast, How Facebook Built Software. And I listen to it as a podcast. So, as you're mowing the lawn, good catch there. The other thing that was really interesting is I saw Microsoft is launching their PC Anywhere thing. And I know in your tech role, you're responsible for end user compute. You're always trying to figure this challenge out, which is how do I get a desktop to any device at any time, right? And that's a constant challenge for, I think, everyone. It'll be interesting to see how they evolve this, because essentially, I think this is their play to own the experience for users overall. Any thoughts on that, or any comments?
Sure. I mean, they've been going after this for a while from a number of different angles, right? And in some ways, they're trying to compete with the other large virtualization providers, and they're combining elements of their own platform today, whether it be conditional access or remote deployment, and using Azure to hook into the cloud with a hash code so that your machine automatically gets provisioned. I don't know a lot about the PC Anywhere effort, to be honest, but it sounds like the next evolution of them collapsing, combining, taking the best of what's worked from the last 5 years and trying to continually evolve their process. I can tell you, you talked about it right before we got on here, and it's something that I'll be looking into with my team after this.
Yeah, no, I think it's an interesting development. The next one I was reading about, and this was I'm always following the tweets out there, that labor shortages in IT are growing, but so are IT budgets, right? And this is true for any organization in tech right now. We are seeing a tremendous amount of turnover, right? Employees they're grabbing on to their next career ladder rung, or employees are coming to us and saying, listen, I actually got a great offer and I'm thinking about taking it. And, this is a challenge for people managers. This is a challenge for even professional engineers, because you're constantly kind of thinking about, well, what's the labor market like? Am I, compensated at the rate that I should be compensated at? And my best bud just got this great gig. Why I look for that? And that's overall, I think, an interesting challenge. I'm interested. You're specifically dealing with a lot of healthcare IT, which means there's some specialized skill sets, I assume, that come part and parcel there. What's been your view over the last 6 months as the economy's reopened, and we're seeing a lot of growth in technical skill sets and challenges in hiring? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. Hiring's expensive, and if you can, you want to make sure you hang on to the people that you've got, right? If you've identified good talent within your organization, the key, of course, is finding what makes them tick. And not everybody ticks to the beat of money. And, in fact, most tech folks don't. They like it, they use it, but, most of them like feeling, my experience is they like feeling engaged and like they're doing something that maybe matters, but mostly it's fun. Mostly they do it because they dig it. They wake up in the morning and they're like, I know how to solve that problem I was stuck on yesterday, right? They get excited to go to work. And so figuring out what makes people tick will help you figure out how to keep them engaged. That's probably the biggest key, is retaining the good talent, because markets will change. And right now, the market is very much changed. And I know these places that have increasing IT budgets. That would be interesting to hear about. But you're always trying to do the most you can with what you've got. And I think there are lots of opportunities out there for sort of savvy employment shoppers. But make sure that you're running to something and not away from something, because that doesn't usually work out.
I really like that analogy. And Andy, with that, we're going to end the broadcast. Believe it or not, you've spent almost 4 minutes with us, and I really thank you for coming on the show today. We'll see you guys again next week with another speaker, and I'm excited. Next week will be an interesting guest. Take care, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Dinesh.